Good morning to all of you. Today we are going to discuss on to a very generic but very important topic which is known as entrepreneurship development. And why it is important to know about this one and why it is important to understand basics of entrepreneurship system and the entire entrepreneurial ecosystem. The reason is that today we do understand that it is very important to put more stress on the growth of economy of the country, whichever be it, but it is highly important. So from the perspective of that one only, actually Government of India has also incorporated and taken many important steps and decisions into the education system of the entire country, be it school education or let's say in higher education institutions also. A lot of efforts are being made towards the development of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial ecosystem also. So the topic that first we would like to discuss today is a basic combination of understanding of entrepreneurs. What do we mean by this one, and what is this entire entrepreneurial ecosystem that we need to understand. So when we discuss about entrepreneurship and its development, so in a more simplified and in a more generic way we can understand this using very few important and minor things and minor understanding of the general concepts also. First, the structure of the entire outline of this discussion would be focused around who are entrepreneurs and what do we mean by this entrepreneurship. So that's why we are trying to focus on to three particular verticals of all these things. First is what do we mean by them, these points, and why it is important to understand them, and how anyone can enter into that ecosystem which is known as entrepreneurial ecosystem. So this is going to be the first point, and then what are the precursors of entrepreneurship? As we understand, creativity and innovation, these two important things actually comprise of this entire system. Then what are the stages of the creative processes? We will discuss on to that one. Further, we will move on to the creativity side of any common person. Usually it is told that entrepreneurs are nurtured. So what is the basic importance and what are underlying phenomena behind that one and their development we will try to understand. Then what are major types of innovation? We will discuss about that one. Is it necessary that anyone can innovate, or what are those barriers which are coming into the ways of innovating new things? Then what would be those possible sources of innovation for entrepreneurs, and there are certain negative sides of this one also. Why do people think that they cannot do this? So what are those myths? We will also try to discuss quickly in this short discussion. So let us first understand as we move to the first point, what do we mean by this entire system. So we can see here that in this entrepreneurial ecosystem there are three important components. First is the entrepreneur, and what is it? Let us see this from the lens of input, process and output. As we do understand that the person which is getting himself or herself involved into any sort of business, into any sort of entrepreneurship process is considered as an input person, a resource person, a person who is actually beginning or starting that particular business. So from the input side, the person is known as entrepreneur, and second is from the process perspective, what do we mean by entrepreneurship is that, as we understand that in a general computing terms also, if we enter 2 plus 3, then it is the job of that central processing unit or CPU which calculates that one. So this entrepreneurship system is an entire process, or we can say that this is a journey in the life of any entrepreneur. And after that process, there must be a destination where the person should reach, and that destination is getting translated in the form of any enterprise. So enterprise essentially means the outcome or the output of this entrepreneurial ecosystem. Now coming to the second point, why it is important to get engaged into this important component, into this important ecosystem. We can see that there are several reasons, but few important points are very necessary to understand at this point of time, especially the students like you. And the first point is, it is actually the backbone of any nation, any country. And what do we mean by this one is that to improve in economy of any country, to improve GDP or let's say per capita income, it is essential to develop this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And why it is? Because see, we understand that there are several public sector enterprises also available in any country, but essentially private sector enterprises or only the public sector enterprises cannot contribute to that extent which is essentially required to improve the GDP or let's say per capita income of any nation. So it is required, and that's why it is considered as the backbone of a nation, or in other words we can say that it is also a type of lifeline of any nation. Then second thing is that unless people find themselves fit for this entrepreneurship process, innovation or let's say creative outcome is not possible. When we try to talk about this one, we usually find that most of the government enterprises, they are largely associated with the welfare of, or let's say social welfare. Now, who will think about new innovation? This innovation doesn't mean that innovation only at technological front. In fact, innovation at every front. So the contribution of enterprises becomes very important, and that is the reason that from the economical perspective, to improve GDP or let's say per capita income or standard of living, it is highly essential that this entrepreneurial ecosystem should be nurtured. So when we talk about contribution to the economy, we can see countries like let's say UAE or Japan or USA. What do we observe? That a lot of this private sector players, through innovative techniques, through innovative technologies, through innovative inputs, they are able to contribute to a larger extent into the growth of the economy. Further, next point is, since there is innovation, since there is creativity, so ultimately it also influences research and development perspective of that small subsystem of that entire ecosystem of that country. For example, let's say unless we develop new things, or let's say we encounter the issues and the problems which are available in the society, which are present in the society, we cannot put good products or services for those people which are required at a larger mass. So essentially, entrepreneurial ecosystem development also influences research and development perspective. Then since there is an establishment of new innovative enterprise, so it also gives and opens door for the employment opportunities also. As we see that it is not the job of a single person who can run the entire enterprise. So naturally new enterprises get open, and all those enterprises also absorb people. So the skilled people, unskilled people also. So in a way, it also gets translated, and it also develops a society at large due to the opening of many opportunities and contribution into the economy of the country also. Then the third point comes, how is it possible, which is the most important out of these three, because here in first 2 points, what we could observe that we could understand that what do we mean by this entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then why it is important. But the biggest question before most of us is that how, in fact, anyone can enter into that ecosystem. So first, it is very important to understand as an individual or as a person that who am I and what is my strength, what I can do. So that is most important thing. So that's why when we talk about what is my strength, it means that I should be able to understand that what is the opportunity that is existing in the society where I can enter, and in that space I can do whole lot of or many new things also. So identifying that opportunity is the first important gateway, and once this gets identified, then we can enter into the ideation stage. So what we see here is that in ideation stage, the proper idea, which may be nurtured later in the form of any startup development, is essential. So in second stage, in ideation stage, essentially the opportunity gets translated into idea, and then evaluation of that idea is also important. So it is not that anything which is coming in the mind may or may not be completely true in that sense. So what do we mean by that evaluation? Evaluation essentially means whether the idea is feasible, whether the idea which is in the mind is achievable. So for that purpose, important step is being considered, which is known as the planning phase. So after evaluation, proper planning of that particular opportunity which is in hand may be improved, may be executed later, and then how this entire thing will go. So this is also important. So capital becomes one of the important and crucial component in that perspective. So raising capital from different locations, different places, different people, that is also another important component. And when we move later on, we see that this gives rise to a startup, and that startup in initial times may be having some sort of challenges. They might be having some sort of struggle also. But later on, with growth and in due course of time, what happens that they are also capable in reaping advantages also later on. So advantages, when I say, it means the profit generation is possible later on into the later stages. So these two important points, which become the part of this entrepreneurship or this important process side, comprises of creativity and innovation. These two words usually we do listen in a very generic way, and what do we mean by this one is important to understand. So first thing is creativity comes first, and followed by innovation. So creativity is thinking new things, as we can see here. When we talk about thinking new things, and thinking new things means what? It means that, let's say, if something is existing, is there any new way of doing any particular thing, or if that new way is possible, how that new way can be achieved. So creativity is the ability to develop new ideas. So new ideas, when we say new ideas, may be at the top of already existing one, or something abstract, something new also. And it also discovers new ways of looking at problems. So let's say any problem is existing in the society, is there any clear-cut creative idea so that we can encounter that particular problem. Likewise, innovation comes next, which is actually doing new things. So when we talk about doing new things, it means applying that creative solution in the form of any specific answer to that particular problem. So to address any particular problem or, let's say, opportunity, we can think about applying those creative solutions. Naturally, it will also improve the society at large and the lives of the people also. And what we see ultimately is that entrepreneurship in itself means the process in itself is a combination of these two. So that's why into this entire process, these two words count a lot, and it is believed that any entrepreneur gets success by thinking and doing. So these two words are very critical and important. By thinking and doing new things. So let's say if you have thought something but you didn't do that one and you didn't execute that one, so everything gets lost into that perspective. So thinking and doing new things in either existing way or let's say in any new way also. So let us understand about a few important phases and important activities. How in fact you can think about removing idea blocks. So usually what happens that in initial time period something comes in the mind and we usually tend to lose that tempo to go ahead or let's say dig it more into that one. So few important stages are there. We can acquire some sort of knowledge by some sort of knowledge towards that particular thing by reading, or let's say sometimes it also happens that through different secondary sources we can first acquire that particular basic information, because if something is coming in the mind we need to see that whether some associated things are already available or not, or let's say what are those things at the top of which one we can apply or let's say put our own idea. So that is the background knowledge accumulation, and second is how to nurture that. So this is known as incubation. So nurturing the concept means that idea which is in the mind is known as incubation process. Once that gets nurtured, naturally the solution side is also getting formulated. So finding the solution and then evaluation in the form of prototypes, and later on it also goes to the IPR development and so and so. So in a way what we can see here is that first paragraph is important to understand when we talk about successful entrepreneurs. So few common findings have been found in different studies like as what actually do they have? Positive self-image. Self-image, when we talk about this one, it essentially means that slightly different from others. So when we talk about different from others means their way of thinking, precise thinking, where to hit, how to translate the opportunity into that particular business. That is very important to understand. Then those types of people are also getting motivated through various challenges also. So whatever comes in the way, they have a solution. So this kind of attitude is very important, and they are also sensitive to the world around them. So it is not that it's only business, so I have to do, so I have to do. So it is not like that. Rather, they also tend to take everyone in the same boat and try to develop their entrepreneurial business around that. And they are also very quick in understanding the concept, gathering ideas, getting motivated, and for that entire thing they don't also take up too much time. So we have seen that in a year or a couple of years time period there are so many startups, new startups that have grown, and they are doing very good in this particular time frame. So few important things from your perspective is very important, that what are those things that trigger or hit the imagination and develop creativity. Usually if we question ourselves like this, we will be able to find that that creativity related inputs within ourselves also. For example, is there a new way to do it? For example, if something is being happening, whether in the field of services, providing services, or let's say in the field of product development also, is there a new way to do it? So questioning ourselves repeatedly about this one will definitely at any point of time will bring some sort of clues, hints, and brief answers also in the mind. Likewise, can we replicate any existing model, or we can develop a new? That is also important. So when we talk about can we give a new twist to the existing model, certainly we have to have some creative and innovative input into that one. Likewise, is it necessary that if something is existing, we need to make a replica or copy of that one, or we can think about developing new things that may be more beneficial and cost effective as well as important in the lives of people. So that may be another question. Likewise, is there a substitute? It is also very important. So for example, if something is in your mind, for example, let's say considering this as a product, so what can replace it? This is important to understand. And is there any possible solution that may be suggested, considered, or maybe taken up for further development? So is there a substitute of any existing thing? Likewise, sometimes it also happens that usually whatever we see, we think that this is the right way, or let's say right ordering of any particular thing. So by rearranging the things, there may be a better outcome. There may be a better, there is a good chance or a good possibility that better outcome will be considered. So can the parts be rearranged? Be a type of question that may be again asked, especially in the case of product development. What if we do just the opposite? So sometimes it also happens, we usually start counting from 1 to 100. What if we start counting from 100 to 1? So sometimes it also happens that there are certain problems where backward counting does the better job as compared to the forward one. So can ideas be combined? So let's say multiple ideas may get combined, and they also might result into a better or improved and advanced outcome also. We have seen this into the drug industry, where we see that in earlier times, for a specific particular disease, say for fever, there was just one drug. For headache, there was another one. And likewise for any other thing, the third and fourth drugs were in the queue. So we had a long prescription from doctor having 8 to 10 medicines. But these days, let's say, there is a combination of formula. So we get very few number of medicines to resolve and to solve those problems. So can ideas be combined? Can things be combined all together, and we can have a better and improved version of that one or not? Can you put it to other uses also? So one thing which is developed for one particular to resolve any particular problem, that may be also a type of solution or answer to address other problems also. So we need to think from that perspective also. And what else could we make from this? Let's say any form of outcome, and are there other markets for it also? So let's say if something is prescribed for a typical market, whether this may be translated or may be utilized to other markets also. So such questions in fact are important from the perspective of initiate the initial thought process in a budding entrepreneur. If he or she is capable to address some of these questions, it becomes very easy for them to enter into that ecosystem. And very quickly we'll discuss about there are few barriers also to creativity. Usually we keep ourselves at backbench, and we think that I am not creative. So this is a very important question, and this is very important statement, and this usually keeps us sitting at backbench. So it is very important to know that it is not that just one answer is required and just one answer is available to a particular problem. What we see that in different types of industries, there are different types of problems, and it is not that only one solution is available. There may be multiple solutions of that one, and that will be thought from different perspectives. So let's say we can consider it from very small examples also. Let's say to keep mosquitoes under control, we see that the net is a probable solution. But later on, what we see that few things again came. For example, we see the rackets, or let's say there are different types of the so-called fumes are also available. So all these things essentially address mosquito control. But at the same time, we need to understand that there is no any particular right answer. There is no any particular precise answer of any specific problem. There may be multiple answers, so we need to keep our horizon open towards that one. Then we usually tend to keep focused onto the logical perspective of the things. We try to see from that perspective. It is not also necessary that every answer, every solution to the problem is associated with that. Sometimes it also happens, and we discussed that blindly following the rules also don't work. Every time thinking that, okay, the practical approach is the only thing which is required, that is also a type of barrier. Then sometimes we think that unless we get full expertise in that one, we should not, let's say, open up before the society at large. That is also not true. We can start from scratch, and we can just put our creative idea. We can open our enterprise and start working on to that one, and slowly and steadily that also gets improved also. Sometimes it also happens that fearing looking foolish, so sometimes it happens that what others will think, so that is also a kind of barrier. So if I don't get success, it would be a kind of loss to the society. It is not like that. So unless we start, how can we understand that, okay, where I am going, and or let's say where my enterprise is going. Fearing mistakes and failure, so these things are essentially barriers to the creativity, and we need to overcome from this one very quickly. So there are certain myths, and we'll quickly sum up with this one. Innovation is planned and predictable. Essentially, it is not like that one. So usually we see that everything in the form of innovation or something which is coming new in the market is actually predictable. So this may not hold true also. Technical specifications should be thoroughly prepared in advance. It is also not like that. As per requirement, this may be developed as and when required also. And creativity relies on dreams. So it is not that just dreaming will give you, some better form of creative outcome. Likewise, big projects will develop better innovation. This is also a type of myth, that small projects are not capable to, develop better creative or let's say innovative outcome. That is also a type of myth which is existing in the society, and that is the reason that as an individual we usually think that I won't be capable to bring such type of solution into the society. And it is also considered that technology is the driving force of innovation and success, but if you look around, you will find that there are a lot of innovations, creative innovations rather, which are not engaging technology from any perspective. So having said all these, in fact, if we think about keeping ourselves focused, and if we tend to remove those barriers which are existing into the mind, it would be essentially better to develop ourselves into a better entrepreneur. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending this.